Welcome back, everyone. Today we've got another explainer where we're breaking down some truly fascinating source material into actionable insights. And I gotta tell you, this one is an incredibly inspiring story that is going to completely challenge how you think about your everyday routines. Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at this powerful narrative about how one tiny, seemingly insignificant detail actually averted a massive catastrophe. So, most heroes never wear capes. I mean, when we think of heroes, right, we usually picture these grand gestures, dramatic rescues, or bold, charismatic leadership. But the source text we're exploring today, it completely flips that script. It introduces a bit of a mystery that makes us ask, who is the story really about? And why does their totally unseen, unglamorous work matter to literally every single one of us? Well, as it turns out, some wear reflective jackets and carry flashlights. This is the story of Adrian. He was a night security guard who was, let's be honest, pretty much overlooked by everyone. He worked while the rest of the world was fast asleep. But as you'll see as we go through this, one perfectly ordinary decision he made ended up changing the lives of thousands of people. Section 1. The Unseen Guardian. So the setting for our story is Orion Tac Tower. Every single evening at exactly 9 p.m., just as the day shift is wrapping up and people are heading out with their laptops and empty coffee cups, Adrian's shift begins. The building gets perfectly, completely quiet. And that's when his real work actually starts. Adrian had this incredibly quiet, meticulous routine. Step 1, check the emergency exits. Step 2, walk the hallways. Step 3, inspect the storage rooms. And Step 4, cover every single floor. He didn't just rush through this checklist so he could kick back and relax. No, he operated on one very simple, self-imposed rule. If something seems small, look twice. He even carried around this little notebook to jot down anything unusual, like a flickering light, a weird sound, maybe a loose door handle. Naturally, his coworkers kind of teased him about it, brushing him off with a dismissive, "You worry too much, it's probably nothing." But Adrian stuck to a really steadfast philosophy. He believed that small problems become big problems when they're ignored. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact difference between just being a passive observer and someone who takes true ownership of their environment. Which brings us to Section 2, the Midnight Discovery. This is where Adrian's diligent mindset gets put to the absolute ultimate test. Picture this. It's a rainy Tuesday night. Everything seemed perfectly normal when his shift kicked off at 9 p.m. But right around 11 p.m., while he's walking past the company's main server room, this very subtle anomaly occurs. It's a tiny detail that almost anyone else would have literally walked right past. But he hears it, a really faint sound. He stops. He listens again. Click, click, click. Now, the security cameras showed absolutely nothing unusual, but something just didn't sit right with him. So instead of shrugging it off, by 11:30 p.m., he calls the emergency maintenance engineer. And wow, when the engineer showed up and inspected the room, he literally turned pale. One of the primary cooling systems was failing, and the servers were slowly, quietly overheating. By 6 a.m., right at sunrise, after an entire night of frantic repairs, the disaster was finally averted. Now, let's just pause and consider the massive scale of what was actually at stake here. Millions. If that cooling system had fully failed within just one more hour, the entire data center would have completely shut down. Millions of customer files. Gone. Permanently lost. The company was literally on the brink of total collapse. And yet, most employees rolled in the next morning having absolutely no idea how close they just came to total ruin. A week later, while still dealing with the aftermath of all this, Adrian gets called into the CEO's office. Now, he actually expected to get chewed out, maybe reprimanded for causing a false alarm or unnecessary panic. Instead, the CEO stands up, shakes his hand, and delivers this profound thought. You protected the trust of millions of customers. Adrian, being the completely humble guy he is, just smiled and said he was only doing his job. But the CEO corrected him on the spot, saying he was doing it way better than anyone ever expected. Section 3. Changing the Culture. You see, this whole thing wasn't just about saving a few servers. Adrian's singular, microscopic act of noticing a clicking sound catalyzed a massive paradigm shift across the entire organization. The company took Adrian's daily habit and actually formalized it into a brand new initiative, Attention Prevents Disaster. And look, this wasn't just some catchy poster they slapped up in the break room. It was a rigorous, company-wide training program. Every single employee, from the highest level executives all the way down to the newest interns, was trained on this exact philosophy of noticing small warning signs, directly inspired by Adrian. And it created a massive ripple effect.
Product quality improved. Customer satisfaction increased. The entire culture of the workplace completely changed. Guys, these are massive macro-level business impacts, and they can all be traced explicitly back to that one quiet little sound in a dark hallway that a night security guard simply refused to ignore.
A few months later, Adrian was actually asked to speak to a group of new employees. A young intern raised their hand and asked him, "How did you know that sound was important?" Adrian just smiled and said, "I didn't. I simply respected the possibility that it could be." And then he dropped this incredibly powerful thought. Responsibility isn't knowing every answer. It's caring enough to ask the right questions. So the crucial point here is that true responsibility is really all about awareness and curiosity, not necessarily having a bunch of technical expertise. Moving on to Section 4, a legacy of excellence. Years passed, and eventually Adrian retired. But to make sure his mindset outlasted his time there, the company installed a simple, permanent plaque right at the building's main entrance. It reads, "Great responsibility begins with small observations." It acts as this brilliant daily anchor. Every single morning, as employees walk past those words, it just causes them to slow down. It reminds them to look just a little bit more carefully at their world, at their work, and at the tiny details everyone else might just be rushing past. Which leads us right to the ultimate takeaway of today's explainer. Excellence is about taking the smallest responsibilities seriously. The source material reminds us that life rarely changes because of one giant, sweeping decision. More often than not, it changes because someone notices what everyone else ignores. I really urge you to take pride in the little things in your own life and work, because you honestly never know what disaster you might prevent or what kind of greatness you might spark. So I'll leave you with this provocative question to think about today. Will you do the right thing when absolutely no one is watching, when it's just a tiny, seemingly insignificant detail? If this story inspired you to start paying closer attention, make sure to subscribe to Gravonix Stories for more motivational narratives every single week. And hey, drop a comment below typing "I will do the right thing" as a solid commitment to honoring your own daily responsibilities. Because remember, greatness isn't defined by your job title, it's defined by how faithfully you carry your responsibility. Thanks so much for exploring this with me, and stay curious.